From struggling to make an AFC championship with Alex Smith to winning their third Super Bowl in 5 years and becoming the first team to win back-to-back since 2004, the Kansas City Chiefs are officially a dynasty, and it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. But how did all this happen, and why was trading up in the 2017 NFL Draft the greatest decision in franchise history? After a 2016 season that saw an aging Alex Smith lead the Chiefs to a 12-4 regular season and another early playoff exit, there was a lot of frustration with the state of the team. He had just earned the second Pro Bowl nod of his career at 33 years old, and although he wasn't putting up mind-boggling stats, he certainly wasn't holding the team back. As Andy Reid and the Chiefs were gearing up for the 2017 season, they found themselves buried deep in the first round of the draft at pick 27. And while many analysts projected GM Brett Veach to take a corner receiver with their top pick, which would fill holes on their roster so they could win now, that's not what he had in mind. Instead, the organization had their eyes on Texas Tech quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who wasn't expected to be selected early on draft day. But after studying his tape, Andy Reid fell in love with his playmaking gunslinger ability that reminded him of a quarterback he coached in Green Bay, Brett Favre. So when the Bears selected Mitchell Trubisky second overall, both the Texans and Cardinals were looking to draft a signal caller as well. The Chiefs got wind of this and traded up to number 10 overall in order to cut them off and take their quarterback of the future. Although they didn't know it yet, this move would soon prove to be the best decision the franchise has ever made. But the future would have to wait. The Chiefs were still a good team, and Alex Smith was still a good quarterback with 2 years left on his contract. So Andy Reid opted for Mahomes to sit for a year and learn behind the veteran. Despite Smith improving on his numbers from the previous year and earning another Pro Bowl, Kansas City regressed, this time going 10-6 before falling to the Tennessee Titans in the wild card round after leading 21-3 at the half. They did, however, start Patrick in the final game of the regular season, and he obviously did enough to prove that he was ready to take the reins as the team ended the Alex Smith era by trading him to the Washington Redskins shortly after their playoff defeat. At the start of the 2018 season, the Chiefs faced off against the division rival Los Angeles Chargers, led by future Hall of Fame quarterback Phillip Rivers with a new unproven quarterback. This would be the first real glimpse into where the franchise was headed, and it went better than anyone had ever imagined. After a quick Chiefs stop, wide receiver Tyreek Hill took the Bolts punt all the way back to the crib to open the scoring. Mahomes proceeded to complete 15 of 27 passes for 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, torching Rivers and the Chargers in a 38-28 victory. It was clear on day one that the league was not ready for Patrick Mahomes. So much so that in week 2, they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by another future Hall of Famer in Ben Roethlisberger. In just his third career start, Mahomes outdueled a second all-time great in as many weeks. The Chiefs prevailed 42-37 in a game where he threw 6 touchdown passes. Mahomes may have had a better start to his de facto rookie season than any quarterback ever, and it was by no means a fluke. For the rest of the season, his play didn't slow down, throwing for over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns en route to winning the MVP award in a complete landslide. The Chiefs went 12-4, earning a first-round bye, and ultimately landed themselves in the AFC Championship game against none other than the Tom Brady-led New England Patriots. And of course, Patrick Mahomes showed up to play. In this game, the Chiefs fought hard in what was a back-and-forth game, even owning a 28-24 lead with just over 2 minutes left to play. But both offenses were cooking, and the Patriots were able to quickly punch in another touchdown with less than 40 seconds left. Kansas City just wouldn't die though, and led a 30-second field goal drive to tie the game and send it to overtime. With the last 5 possessions from either team resulting in points, the entire world knew that whoever won that overtime coin toss would end up punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. And just like that, Brady and the Patriots won the toss, and Mahomes would never see the ball again. Tom Brady, of course, would go on to win his final Super Bowl with the Patriots, while Mahomes was presumably sitting at home thinking about what could have been. But despite the way his first season ended, the Chiefs made it very clear that they had their eyes on a Super Bowl in the coming seasons. 2018 saw the evolution of Tyreek Hill into one of the elite receivers in the NFL, and a career year for Travis Kelce, of course. Both players combined for almost 3,000 receiving yards and each notched their second first-team All-Pro seasons. Although Tyreek's first was as a kick returner, it turns out he can do a lot more than just field kicks. The story of how the Chiefs acquired Tyreek is actually quite interesting when they took a shot on him in the 5th round of the 2016 draft, putting their faith in a player who had faced many personal issues throughout his young life. John Dorsey and Andy Reid brought him to Kansas City and had to hold a press conference to calm down the fan base and community, assuring them the speedster wouldn't be causing any more trouble. The results were phenomenal. Hill matured and settled into life with the Chiefs and turned into an All-Pro in the process. Finding a wide receiver in the 5th round of the draft certainly helps when it comes to building a dynasty, and Hill might be one of the best value picks of all time. Entering the 2019 season, the Mahomesian era was officially underway, and teams were going to have to adapt to have a chance at stopping their elite offense. But whatever they did clearly didn't work, as the signal caller came out with a vengeance, throwing 10 touchdowns to 0 interceptions and nearly 1,200 yards in his first 3 games as the Chiefs rolled out to a 3-0 start. But after a couple down weeks, they sat at 4-2, heading into a Week 7 matchup against their division rival, Denver Broncos, a team they had dominated since the departure of Peyton Manning. It was the perfect get-right scenario for KC, but that would be too easy. Kansas City was up 13-6 with 10 minutes to play in the second quarter and were in great position to score. Facing 4th and 1 from Denver 5-yard line, Andy Reid caught a quarterback sneak, hoping to easily gain the yard and convert for a touchdown on the drive. As Mahomes lunged forward, he picked up the 2 yards while fully enclosed in the pileup, and as the body started to clear, it became immediately evident that he was in pain. In an interview with Jason and Travis Kelce on the New Heights podcast, Mahomes said, "I got the first down, and he fell on my knee. I remember being on the ground and just looking at it, and my kneecap was in the side of my calf. I didn't know what to do, so I just froze up. And the worst part was the reaction from every teammate that I have. I had dudes running 50 yards away from me, just running down to the other side of the field." At that moment, no one knew whether or not Mahomes would even see the field again in 2019 after suffering such a gruesome injury, but miraculously, he would return just 3 weeks later for a Week 10 game against the Tennessee Titans, throwing for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns and a loss. I mean, what could possibly stop this man? Just 3 weeks ago, his knee looked badly damaged, but he got right back out there and balled out. The Chiefs were officially back on top of the AFC, and a down year for the Patriots meant they would likely not have to worry about Brady again in the playoffs. They finished the regular season with 6 straight wins to lock up the #1 seed at 12-4, and a first-round bye in the playoffs yet again. In the divisional round, KC found themselves matched up against the 10-6 Houston Texans, led by Deshaun Watson, a rising star at the quarterback position who was selected just 2 picks behind Patrick himself. And if somehow you didn't believe in the Mahomes magic before this game, it was simply undeniable after this performance. Sloppy would be a generous way to describe how the Chiefs opened up their 2019 postseason. A slew of errors including a coverage bust that allowed a 50-yard Watson touchdown on the opening drive, a blocked punt return for a touchdown, a muffed punt at their own 5-yard line, and multiple drops by open receivers led to Andy Reid finding his squad down 24-0 just 4 minutes into the second quarter. Those 19 minutes of in-game time might be the worst stretch of any game in Chiefs history. The comeback will be difficult, but not impossible, when they quickly scored a touchdown. A Texans fake punt attempt then set them up with great field possession, where Mahomes cashed in again and lowered the lead to just 10. Then a Texans kickoff fumble pinned them back deep once again, allowing another easy Kansas City touchdown. And now they ended what might have been their worst 19-minute stretch ever with their best 11-minute stretch, and managed to turn a 24-0 deficit into a 27-24 lead at the half. The remainder of the game was not even competitive, as the Texans were completely demoralized and the Chiefs blew them out of the water with a final score of 51-31. Few remember that the Texans even had the lead. The following week, in their second AFC Championship game in 2 years, KC played another AFC South opponent in a rematch of their regular season loss to the Tennessee Titans. This time, Patrick Mahomes would get the better of Tennessee after a highlight reel 27-yard touchdown run sucked the life out of the Titans. The Kansas City Chiefs had earned their first trip to the Super Bowl in 50 years, facing the loaded San Francisco 49ers, who boasted talent such as George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and a young Brandon Ayuk. However, they didn't have Patrick Mahomes, nor a quarterback who would take over a game like 15 could. It was an incredibly close game with several lead changes, but the Chiefs found themselves down 20-10 with just over 7 minutes to play. When it was needed most, Mahomes chucked up a prayer that seemed to hang in the air forever, but eventually it found its way to open Tyreek Hill 45 yards down the field at the San Francisco 20. And after a game-changing pass interference call on Tavarius Moore's coverage of Travis Kelce, he went right back to his favorite target, number 87, to cut the lead down to 3. A Chiefs stop led to another quick score, and that was all she wrote for the 49ers. The Big Three and Andy Reid secured their rings at long last, but everyone watching had a feeling it wouldn't be their final. The ring was 50 years in the making, but this was just the beginning. Following their Super Bowl victory, the Chiefs pinned Patrick Mahomes to a record-breaking 10-year, $450 million contract in the summer of 2020, which will be one of the most important decisions for the longevity of the franchise, having already locked up Hill and Kelce. Not only had they signed their franchise quarterback until 2030, but at a price that would still allow them to continue building the roster. The deal was 5 years longer than any other player in the league at the time, and this team wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. 2020 was a strange season without fans in the stands, but KC picked up right where they left off and rolled through teams all the way to another Super Bowl appearance. Andy Reid had built an elite coaching staff, backed by Eric Bieniemy on the offensive side and the forever underappreciated Steve Spagnuolo running the defense. Spagnuolo always seemed to show up with an elite game plan in the playoffs, and particularly in the recent years, has propped up the offense whenever they struggled to find a rhythm. The 2020 season Super Bowl would see Mahomes and the Chiefs face the GOAT Tom Brady in his first year in Tampa Bay. Brady was on a collision course with his 7th Super Bowl ring, and nobody was going to stop him. Although it was a rough loss, it was still another great year for the Chiefs. It showed them that they still had room to improve, specifically the offensive line. Their quarterback was pressured on over half of his dropbacks in the Super Bowl, which led Kansas City to trade for Orlando Brown Jr., draft standout center Creed Humphrey with their 2nd-round pick, and bring in Joe Thuney during free agency. After an offseason of rebuilding their offensive line, 2021 brought the Chiefs another successful season at 12-5. Falling just short in the AFC Championship game to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Then in 2022, a year in which the Chiefs were written off after trading wide receiver Tyreek Hill, they answered the bell. Critics wondered how Mahomes would fare without his superstar wideout, but the addition of Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling was enough, and the Chiefs flew to their 3rd Super Bowl appearance in 4 seasons. This time, the Chiefs franchise would truly open the door to a potential dynasty run, winning another Super Bowl title. They defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in a thriller, and Mahomes now had a 2nd ring in just 5 years as a professional. He was officially ahead of the curve and had a roster around him that could seemingly keep winning for many years to come. Now in 2023, after struggling mightily on offense for most of the regular season, Mahomes had an offensive explosion in the playoffs and just won the big game in a rematch against the 49ers. The Chiefs being named back-to-back champions is how the game ended after being down 10-3 at the half. Patrick Mahomes started clicking and he led them to an overtime victory, a legendary performance that saw him total 400 yards and 2 touchdowns to demoralize the 49ers yet again. Recent years suggest that this is certainly not going to be their last appearance in the big game, but 3 Super Bowls in 5 years confirms the Chiefs as an all-time dynasty. With the success that the Kansas City Chiefs have had ever since Mahomes took over, it's really easy to just give him all the credit. But if you remember, this team was pretty successful even before he arrived. Building a dynasty is not as simple as it seems. There are many moving parts that the average fan will never uncover. Brett Veach deserves so much credit for proactively addressing issues and hitting on talented players at positions of need time and time again. With guys like Creed Humphrey, L'Jarius Sneed, Rashee Rice, and Trent McDuffie all becoming perennial playmakers on the current roster. Steve Spagnuolo deserves so much credit for turning a bottom-of-the-league defense into the entire reason they made the playoffs at all in 2023. His creative blitz packages, confusing coverages, and stunts involving defensive backs caused even a 2-time MVP in Lamar Jackson to fold under pressure. Not to mention how Andy Reid's creativity as a play caller has allowed the Chiefs to mold into whatever team they need to be on offense to succeed. How many teams in the NFL can trade away a player like Tyreek Hill and go win a Super Bowl the next season without really getting a replacement? When the passing game didn't work in 2023, Reid decided to lean on the defense and pound the rock with 7th-round running back Isaiah Pacheco down the stretch. The culture that has been established in KC is clearly infectious. Just ask Taylor Swift, who's been shown in a suite of nearly every game. There are so many players who are not household names that make game-altering plays in season-altering games. Nick Bolton had a scoop and score in Super Bowl 57. MVS just had a massive reception to close out the Ravens in the AFC Championship. Noah Gray, Willie Gay, etc. All of these guys play like champions in the clutch, and it's because the players, coaches, and owners are all the way in on keeping this franchise at the very top. All of these variables matter. All of these people matter. And without any one of them doing their job, this whole thing may have never happened. That's exactly why Chiefs Kingdom is sitting atop the NFL's throne again, and one that could rival the greatest all-time dynasty from Foxborough by the time they're finished. We're witnessing all-time greatness in real time. Time to kick back and soak it all in. If you're a Chiefs fan, of course.